everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm just going to wait a minute or two. I can see the numbers are climbing as people start signing in. So I'll go through some housekeeping in a minute. Wow, lots of people joining us this afternoon, which is great. Just watching those numbers climb. We will start in another minute or so. Thank you. Thank you to all those people who have just joined us. I'm just waiting another 30 seconds until a few more people sign in, and then we'll get started. Okie dokie, it looks like the numbers have started to level out. So I will start with some housekeeping and then introduce our presenters. So firstly, thank you so much to everyone for joining us this afternoon for the PM Writing in Your Classroom webinar. I'll go through some quick housekeeping. So you should all notice that your cameras are switched off and you are all muted. This is just to reduce any background noise and any distractions. If you have a question about PM writing or any technical issues, please use the Q&A and chat functions on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. If you can't see it now, if you just move your mouse to the bottom of the screen, the toolbar should appear. My colleague Jasmine and I will be monitoring this throughout the webinar, answering any questions you have. The webinar is being recorded and everyone who has registered for this session will receive an email in a week's time, including this recording and all of the links mentioned throughout the webinar. For everyone who is attending this webinar live, you will also receive a $50 Nelson Primary voucher to use online on any of our primary products. Please stay tuned for details on how to receive your voucher at the end of this webinar. I'll now hand over to our presenters, Carmel Small, our Professional Development Consultant, and Kate McGough, our Primary Senior Publisher. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm so pleased and excited to be able to work with you today and introduce you to one of our newest resources, PM Writing. And we want to show you how to use that in your classroom. We're really fortunate to have Kate McGough, who is Senior Publisher on this series with us today. Thank you for joining us, Kate. And what we'll do today is work in tandem a little bit, so that I'll show you some slides and what the product is, and Kate will then work with us and show and share the digital portal, which is a major component of the new series. So as Steph mentioned, my name is Carmel Small and I'm the Professional Development Consultant for Nelson. Like I said, because you're joining us probably at the end of the teaching day today, we'll try and make this process as pain-free as possible and get you through this short session. The fact that Kate is here with us today also means that if you've got any questions through the session, she'll be able to respond to them as I'm talking, and vice versa. If she's showing us the digital portal, I'll be able to respond to the questions too. So feel free to interact with us through the session as we go. So let's start just by talking about writing for a minute. We know as teachers that learning to write is really complex for children. So we do need to do some explicit teaching and help children to practice their writing skills as often as possible, and this is essential. There is an explicit and systematic way to teach our children to write. And I guess what PM Writing does, and you'll see this through the digital, the teacher digital portal that Kate will show you, that PM Writing helps you to do this, and it provides you with the appropriate tools that you will need to undertake this process in your classroom and to support your students in whichever way possible. you know, it is, I guess the other thing I want to mention about this, it's extremely flexible in how it can be used. It's not necessarily a program, but it is, I guess, a suite of materials which you can use with other materials that you have in your school and that you use. And you can use it explicitly for teaching of writing skills, but also for differentiation, which we will talk about at length through the session. So I guess, sorry, guys. Can you hear me? I guess you can, sorry. So the learning intentions then for the session are really to help you to use the resource, to use PM writing, to help you cater for the different abilities that you have in your classroom. We want successful writers. We've already mentioned that it's a complex process. And because in the last few years, particularly, we've been focusing so much on reading, and the fact that reading and writing are linked, we want to make sure that our children are doing what they need to do to also be successful writers in this space. I guess what PM writing does also is helps you in terms of time and time management. It saves you time with planning and assessment, which is absolutely critical in this. I guess because we've focused on some other things, maybe our confidence in teaching writing isn't what it used to be. And so I guess PM writing supports that too. And through that process offers extensive professional support. So you'll see elements of this through the session. And just by the way, if you hang in there to the end, we will show you and tell you how to access that $50 voucher to purchase product with us if you're interested. So I guess the thing to remember is that PM writing, some of you would already have it in your school. You've already seen the initial edition, which was actually introduced in 2007. And so you can see on the left-hand side of your screen what that looked like. You've probably got some big book exemplars in your library. You probably have seen them and used them quite regularly. So I guess what we've done is we've taken the best of what teachers liked and used from the first edition, and we've created this revised edition in the last 12 months or so. And so we've kept those big books, those exemplars that you really, really enjoy using and that you get the most out of. And we've added this teacher digital portal, if you like, which is the biggest component now of the revised edition. And so when I say Kate's going to walk you through and share that with you later, that's what I'm talking about. She's going to share with you the biggest component of the new series, which is the digital portal. So once you see the digital portal, you will see how huge it is. And so what we are offering is a free 7-day trial for you to actually play with it yourselves, because we can show you how it works, but I think you'll need to do some of that yourselves. This QR code I'll show again at the end of the session, and the QR code and the free trial tab is also available on our Nelson Primary website, which the URL is there and available for you. What else is there on the website are some materials, some brochures for you to look at to show you what it is. And also a couple of little videos. I won't show you the video today because we only have a 45-minute session, but the video is there for you to look at yourself. It's about 4 minutes long, so it doesn't take long. And also you can use it with your staff. All of those things are available on your website. And what we really want you to do is have a look at those resources, because you will see how then PM writing can transform the teaching of writing for you in your classroom. So what is it? Well, it's an explicit and sequential introduction to most of the major text types in the curriculum. And we introduce something called hybrid text further along as you work through the learning stages. It's a new and enhanced edition or revised edition, as I've mentioned, and includes this huge teacher portal with a suite of materials for you to access. There are 10 new exemplar big books, which you can see on your screen. Some of you may already have the emergent and early in your schools already, which are available now. The developing big books are available at the moment, And as you can see, the consolidating and extending big books will be available with the portal at the beginning of 2023. They're being written at the moment. Kate might have more information about that when we get to her later. So you get the digital portal and you will receive the big books through purchasing the digital portal. You'll notice the construct for those is slightly different too. We haven't written book 1, book 2, book 3, or year 1, year 2, year 3. There's a range of possibilities within the content that you can use in a differentiated way, in an extended way with some students, or take students back to reinforce ideas. So we thought and we looked at the idea that you're having a range within one of the stages is a better way, a better construct to use the resource. And I'm sure Kate will talk about that a little bit more as we go along. So why do we need PM writing in our classroom? So there's quite a bit of evidence and research around at the moment as to the context and why writing has fallen off a little bit in terms of outcomes for students and what we're actually doing. So what are we noticing? I guess the thing that we notice the most as teachers in our classroom is that children are probably a little bit less confident and engaged in writing at the moment. So sometimes, even with that, their writing pieces may get longer, but they don't necessarily get better in quality. And I guess what we want to do with PM writing is allow that to be explored in the classrooms with the students that you're working with. You know, often we'll put a book in front of a child and ask them to have a go at reading, and they'll quite capably and happily to have a go at that. But you ask them to have a go at writing for us, and sometimes there is a struggle with that. And so I guess that's part of the reason that we want to engage them with writing again through PM writing. I guess in the last 2 years too, we have seen lots of different children at different stages on their learning journeys. And so remote learning and gaps, less access to explicit teaching in that time has meant that children are at all different points on the trajectory. One of the big points of difference with this new revised series is there is a differentiated pathway or pathways actually for children to engage with writing. And Kate will definitely show you what that looks like when she shows you the portal. So there's a definite sequence of lessons for you as a teacher to differentiate the teaching. And I don't mean just a little box in the corner that says, you know, this is how you extend. It's actually a complete learning sequence and pathway for children who may need some differentiation in this space. And what we know as teachers in the classroom, kids are all different spaces. We need to be able to have a resource that allows us to do that. I guess the other thing to think about is that we've noticed that there are less exemplar and mentor texts, particularly in the early years, as we become more decoding focused on reading in our classrooms. And I guess the issue with that is that often what we're seeing translated into writing, because reading and writing are linked, is a mimicking of that decodable writing, if you like, in text. So we need to show children what text looks like. When we're talking about different text types, what does a good exposition look like? What does a good explanation look like? What does a good narrative look like? If we want children to write good text, we need to show them good ones. And so that's the purpose of the exemplars. And so you'll see that through the print and the digital, of course. We have huge time pressures and constraints on us as teachers at the moment, and that's why we are thankful that you've even joined us this afternoon and given us this little bit of time. You are under pressure, and so we want to make this the planning for writing as easy as possible for you, as flexible as possible for you, using technology and the digital platforms to make that happen. So that there are multiple entry points into managing the explicit teaching and teaching of writing. So that will, I guess, PM writing supports that, as you will see. The other thing the research would tell us is that, you know, children are struggling with oral literacy. There's several reasons for that. We can cite some of the pandemic issues around that. But I think even before the pandemic, technology had played a big part in that. Younger children were coming to us in schools with less oral literacy and less oral capacity. And what we know is that children can't write what they can't say. So this is really important in terms of building oral language. And what we've done with PM writing is built some vocab prompts, engagement prompts, so that have understanding of the vocab and oral literacy needed for the various text types, but also then how to translate that to their writing. So PM writing supports that wholeheartedly. And I guess one of the other main things, and there are others, but these are the main ones, the curriculum has a renewed need for the explicit teaching of language features, particularly around grammar. And so we have built this into PM writing in a very practical and explicit way. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly went through, my schooling and even my early, studies as a teacher with a very limited understanding of grammar and how grammar works in text. And so it's very hard for us as teachers to explain that to children if we don't know it ourselves. So what PM writing does is explain that very clearly through the process. So, as I said, that's part of the research that preempted or premeditated the revised edition, the new and enhanced edition of PM writing. If you want to look more closely at some other parts of the research, I suggest this document, Writing and Writing Instruction, which is the most recent version of this from Aero. So have a look at that, because that underpins quite a bit of the evidence that has been used to inform this resource. I guess, so what I'm saying is that through using PM writing, through working through the evidence that is out there, that's informing our curriculum, what we want to do is develop proficient or balanced writers. And so this diagram is actually on our website. Don't feel like you have to take a photo of it or write it down quickly. But we want writers who understand how text works at both the whole text level, at the word level, and at the sentence level, and that they integrate content or conceptual understandings with a particular genre and address the purpose that's intended for and the audience. So that's what proficient writers do, and it's a bringing together of all of those things. And so when we use PM writing, we want to use exemplar text to deconstruct good text, a good understanding of how a text works, in order to construct a text, which is actually putting it on a piece of paper. So how does an authentic text work? What is the purpose? Who is the audience? The structure, the language features involved at all of those levels. And in so doing, develop oral capacity as well. And not just oral capacity for the early years, but through all of the years of schooling into junior secondary. And the extending stage takes us through into upper primary and junior secondary. So it's a huge help with that. So what is it, I guess? When you open up the big books, you will see this spread on the inside front cover. So it's really easy to use. It's a one-time access code purchase that you end up buying. The code is on the inside front cover. You just type in the web address, type in the code and your school email address, and then you have access, or you get access to this navigation and landing page. It's pretty simple to navigate through. This is what you will see if you purchase the Emergent series for a start, for example. On this landing page, you'll see there's been a purchase of Emergent A and Emergent B, and they are the texts that are most prominent at those year levels and the engagement prompts associated with them. What you'll see in the left-hand corner, which you can access, are the developmental stages. So you can access the text through that way. The other way to access any of the information is to access through the 5 tabs at the top. So the exemplar tab, the planning tab, the lessons tab, the assessment tab, and the professional learning tab. So either way will take you to a landing page where you can click on whatever you want and use in whichever way you want. Kate will do a walkthrough of some of those tabs as we move through the session shortly, actually. Because the digital portal is so big, what we suggest is, I guess, a bit of a pathway or planning process for you to make this easy for you. Because remember I said you can enter, there's multiple entry points and enter it different ways. And because it's not necessarily a program and it just has those tabs across the top, you may be thinking, well, how do I do this? How do I actually plan with this? So we've decided that these 6 steps are probably the easiest way. And we'll talk through, Kate and I will now talk through using the portal shortly to show you how to work through these. So obviously deciding on the text type and what you want to teach is the first step. Choosing the right exemplar or text that actually links to that through the portal is step 2. Accessing some teacher notes or some annotated teaching notes so that you are aware what your teaching focus is step 3. And all of these things, by the way, are in the portal, which we will show you shortly. Once you have done that and you've seen what your teaching focus is, then access the appropriate lesson plan, which will give you those tools for explicit teaching and or, if needed, the differentiation pathway. Of course, assessment is important, and you can either do assessment towards the end of a unit of work, or of course, you could do it at the beginning. So number 5 actually could be, before number 1 if you needed to, depending on whether you wanted to do some pre-assessment or not. And as I mentioned, what PM Writing does is provides a significant amount of professional learning support for you. So if there's gaps for you, you can access that information as well and keep you up to speed on what you need to know next, I guess. So I'll just do step 1 and then I'm going to hand you over to Kate. So in terms of step 1 and deciding on the text type, my question to you is, do you have a whole school scope and sequence for the teaching of writing? Do you know for your year level what exactly needs to be taught and the language features and writing processes in the curriculum that we need to teach our children at the various year levels? So I guess what I'm saying there is, yes, we definitely need to go to the curriculum, but we also have within PM Writing some of that work already done for you. And so this handout is in the planning tab, which allows you access to know what has to be taught explicitly at your year level and what you can also expose children to at your year levels and how you would do that. So the other part of this then is, I need more than just a scope and sequence of the genre. I need the content that is linked to that from the curriculum. So I've just put one up here that's actually in the portal. This one is based on the writing process, but there are others that are based on the grammar for the different stages, handwriting, punctuation, sentence structure, purpose of writing, etc., for the different stages. And of course, since this has been developed, the Australian Curriculum brought out 9.0, didn't they? So what we've done is we've updated them. And so you will notice in the portal that we now have some Australian Curriculum links from the 9.0 version attached to each of these developmental stages. And so what you'll see is what the actual content descriptor is and the code that goes along with it. So these are just a couple of examples so you can see. So when I've shown this to teachers before, they've gone, wow, this is such a huge time saver for me. I won't have to do this anymore. And you know, for us as teachers, we need to do this information or have this information at our hand, but The other thing about this is it takes a long time. It's time consuming. And so I guess what we've tried to do here is do all of this for you, all of the links to all of those elements of the language, literature, literacy strands, which are intertwined. We've tried to separate out a little bit for you and link it to 9.0 for you, which is in the portal. So with that in mind, you've got your information, you know what you have to teach at your year level. Step 2 would really be to go and find that now particular type of text within the portal. So this is where I will hand over to my lovely friend Kate, who will now show you some of the portal. I've been talking about it, but you're probably what you really want to do is actually look at it and see it. And she's the best person to show you that because she was the senior publisher on this project. So over to you, Kate, for a little while.
Thanks, Carmel, and thanks, everyone. And yes, there's so much to show you, and I'm really conscious of time as well. So I'm going to just stop sharing Carmel's screen and start sharing my screen here. So hopefully everybody can see the portal now up on the screen. So really, this is like the landing page of the PM Writing Teacher portal. And I got to this from the print big book, which has a unique code in it. And that code is for whole school access. It's a one-off purchase, and it gives you access to this amazing portal, which will have digital exemplars, planning materials, explicit lesson plans with differentiated pathways, assessment materials, and some professional learning resources. So as Carmel mentioned in one of her earlier slides, there are 5 tabs at the top of the screen, and that's really this is your navigation around the portal. So if you never can quite remember where you are, look for this underline. It always shows you where you are in the portal. So we're on the exemplars tab, and I'm in the early stage of PM writing. So and this is where we can go straight in to access an exemplar. I've decided today that we're going to look at, or I could be in my classroom, that was a recount. And so now I'm in the recount text. So this is the exemplar text. This is the exact same text in terms of display and format that you get in the print big books as well. So what the text presentation spread of an exemplar text will do, of course, is it talks about, this is where your opportunity is to have a talk about author purpose and the audience. And you can really, you know, just sort of like delve into the text. You read it together, you talk about it, you can do some comprehension and recalling activities. There's a lot of oral literacy happening here. You can go to text structure, which would be the next spread that's in the book, but also this is the next screen here. So text structure view really allows you to examine the components of the text structure of a text type. So you can toggle these on and off, so you can focus on a certain section of that text structure view, if you like. And then finally, you can go to language features, and you can really identify and study some typical language features that really relate to that text type. So you can again turn these on and off if you just wanted to focus, for example, on time and sequence words, and you can turn them on again. And again, this matches the coding that's in the print book. There's just a few other features of the digital exemplar that I will show you. I'm just going to go back to, for example, the text presentation spread here. So the edit tools. So of course you can use these digital editing tools in your class. You can do this with whole class or small group activities. Text editor, so you can come in, and this is where you can work with the children and you can create a shared text together. You can co-author this text together. So it could be my new, well, it's like, let's just say slide for now. So, and perhaps again, because this is a recount, but we could just say, you know, in the morning. And so you can start working on text and changing it. What you can do then is you can come out of it and you can keep using it. You can also have note tools. Here you've got pen tools. If you wanted to mark up the text, you can highlight words in the text. You can also edit images as well. I know I'm racing through those tools, but if you do the free trial, you'll be able to like have a go with all of these. what you can do is save a new version of this exemplar text. So instead of it being my new playset, this will be my new slide. Excuse my typos. I'm pressing save here, and now it's saved as a new text. So I've got it here, and if I scroll down, if you scroll down your page, you'll see your saved text here. So these are texts that you create in your classroom. They're linked to your login. So you'll see them for yourself, but they won't be seen across the whole school. But basically, you can come back and keep working on these texts with your students, and you've got a suite of your own personal classroom texts in there as well. There's one more tab really quickly because that I just want to quickly show you. What I'll do is I'll just come back again. You can see where I am. I'm going to come back to early A. I might come back to a narrative here. Every exemplar text has a more button. When you click the more button, you're going to get a carousel. So what you'll find in that carousel, you'll find videos. Now, these are videos that are student facing. They've been written and developed for the developmental level that you're working in, and you can bring that up. I won't play it. But what it does, it talks about nouns. At this level, we'll talk about common nouns, we'll talk about proper nouns, and it steps students through what are nouns, people, places, things, and etc. And this is for the coding that you saw previously. So those specific language features for that text type, nouns, past tense verbs, even simple sentences, time phrases, verbs. You'll also have under here activity sheets that you can print out straight from underneath the text type, just for saving time. And you'll also have access to the lesson plan, but I'm going to show you the lesson plan through the lesson tab. And finally, you have an interactive writing proforma as well for that text type, where again, you can do a lot of co-authoring of text together, and you can save interactive text types through as well. So they sit under that exemplar. And again, this is just a little prompt for you to do the talking with the students, and you can start writing a text together. It also has just reminders of past tense verbs that are based on the developmental stage of the PM levels. So we've included those as well, just as prompts and ideas, and you can add in photos too. So that really is these. So when you purchase a big book, you'll get every one of those texts in the big book. You actually really are purchasing this whole digital suite, and you get all the text there. So that's really that step 2. Carmel has 6 steps. That's you're choosing that appropriate exemplar and using that, whether you're doing it digitally or through the book. We also have a planning tab. So I'm just going to click onto the planning tab here. And the planning tab really is, it supports you in just working out for that term or for the semester or even for the year. It helps you plan what text types you might choose and to use. And again, this is where you'll find the scope and sequences. So Carmel was showing you those scope and sequences. We've got them here. You'll have the Australian curriculum scope and sequences. They're very close to being uploaded, I think, in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll do New South Wales and Victoria as well. So they're really useful there. We also have, there are other handy resources such as PDFs that you can download just to remind yourself and read about the links between written, oral and visual literacy, writing skills and conventions. The other tab under planning that I just quickly want to show you is these text types. So for point 3, where Carmel was saying the way of using, or one way of using PM writing in the classroom is to have a look at the text type visual guide and identify a teaching point. What we do for you is for every text type that we've covered, we allow you to have a really handy visual guide that you can just bring up on screen for yourself, or you can print out. A PDF comes up and it just immediately opens, and it reminds you of the text structure. It reminds you of other text forms that can be taken for this is a narrative. And then it just goes through the language features that can be discussed and the focus for a narrative, proper nouns, time and sequence word, common nouns, adverbial phrases, pronouns, etc. So it's really useful to access those text type information PDFs, and they're sitting under the planning tab under text types. We also have at the very bottom documents that will just give you the approach and rationale through all the levels of why we coded those language features and what our approach to that was, as well as an overview for the whole series. Okay, I'm going to keep moving along, because another powerful part of the PM Writing Teacher Portal are the lesson plans. So each exemplar text is supported by a detailed lesson plan. So I'm going to go to early, I'm going to go to narrative, and I'm going to look for the lesson plan that supports the narrative of Looking for Whales. So there's a right-hand menu here. Now this will be your friend. So this is where I suggest, if you're coming to have a look in the trial, come to the right-hand menu. You'll have lessons that will relate directly to the text presentation, which is that first spread, lessons that and ideas that relate directly to text structure, and also to language features as well. And you can see the little subheadings. It's like a contents list. What you'll find too there are specific learning tasks for whole class and for small groups through the differentiated pathways. We also provide, as you can see here, learning intentions and success criteria that are linked to our assessment resources. So the lessons are divided into these sections that support the flow of the text. We'll go through, I've got text presentation here. So even reading the text, it'll link it to the exemplar for you. So if you've come through a lesson plan, you can still get to your exemplar here. In all the lesson plans, you'll find these coloured tables. Now, these are our differentiated pathways. What we've done is we've got a towards, an at, and a beyond. So the towards, and you've got a little hover text to remind you, is for those students that are, working towards achieving the success criteria, but they just need that additional teacher intervention. You've got at, where they're expected to achieve the success criteria at that year level. And then you've got beyond, where those students are already working beyond the success criteria for that level. And throughout the lesson plans, if I just go to text structure here, for example, and you were introducing complication for narratives, you'll see again, you've got these differentiated pathways. So the lesson plans also support the writing process. So you can come down to your contents list on the side and, for example, modelled writing. So this is where we offer ideas for teachers who you can model the planning and drafting of a new text using this specific text type. And we give you planning and drafting scaffolds, which are PDFs that you can work on, bring up on the whiteboard, but you can also print them out and give them to the students. So for the teacher, we've got model writing ideas and also drafting ideas as well when you come to it, and links to high frequency words. We also have interactive and shared and independent writing, where students also plan and draft their own texts. But these are based on the differentiated pathways. So you will have modelled your planning, how you went to plan a narrative, and now students can do this, and you can scaffold them through it. So you can take them down the different pathways if you've grouped them. And we've given you links to all the resources you need when you need them in the lesson plans. Finally, the students will publish through a publishing scaffold. They'll publish their text, and we give you a quick assessment checklist so that you can check their understanding, and you can access that here as well. The lesson plan also includes opportunities to further practice that text type. And again, that comes under additional practice, where your students can write a narrative using all the language features that have been taught, and you can follow up with other language features if you feel that the students are ready. So you could use these for whole class, but also perhaps just for those students who are ready to be taken beyond. So we'll give you some other lesson and activity ideas here. And finally, you can also do a check-in assessment for that writing as well. Again, we give you that differentiated pathway for the students, and you can go to assessment as well. So you can assess that published text. So really quickly, keeping an eye across the time, when I'm talking about you can assess it, and we've got these assessment templates, that's where you can go into the assessment tab, go to the stage that you're working on. We want the assessment in PM writing to be comprehensive. We don't want it to be onerous. We're trying to make it, we don't want you to feel like you're spending more time assessing than actually teaching and instructing writing. The assessment summary document is a really useful document of an overview of these assessment resources. But we have pre-assessments, you know, so that you can check in for to assess the readiness of the students for their writing. And we also have text types specific assessments as well. So these will help you evaluate purpose and structure. It will help you when I showed you through the lesson plans, you were doing the planning and the drafting and then the publishing. These are the checklists that you can use to assess the students as they go on their way. We also provide for the students a self-assessment so that once they've done their draft, before they go to their publishing, they can do some revision and self-reflection on what they've written as well. So they're all under the assessment tab. Finally, we get to the professional learning tab. And this is where we will start building up a suite of videos for you, where you'll find videos that are created for you. They're not the student videos, but they will just be prompts and reminders of key aspects of writing, around learning features, around approaches to writing, around like what is modelled writing, what is shared writing, what is interactive writing. And then as we complete these videos, because this is a portal that is growing and that you purchase with a one-off whole school license, and we'll keep adding in these materials to support you. So the professional learning portal will be your friend. You'll also find PDFs that you can download with suggested teaching pathways, which are really a great way of just a sequence for you to access all the materials in the portal, and also just sort of know when to introduce them and when to use them. And you'll probably end up finding some videos with Carmel in there as well. So 5 tabs and this amazing suite of materials that you can use for like your whole class and for small groups. And I think I've done that in about 15 minutes, Carmel. So what I'm going to do...
Well done, Kate. Well done.
I'll stop sharing for just one moment, and I think I'll just pass over to you to wrap everything up.
All right, so there's a couple of things that... can you see my screen now, Kate? Okay.
Yes, we can.
So I was busily answering some questions as you were going. People were asking some questions, and I think that Jasmine and Steph did too. So I hope we got to everyone. And if we didn't, we've got transcripts that we can get back to you. So a couple of things. There was a question that I didn't answer online, but I'll say, but I'll be able to talk to the people now. Our guests that have joined us from New Zealand, welcome to you all. But the question was, in our scope and sequences tab, it was linked to the Australian curriculum. Did we have any plans for the New Zealand curriculum? So do you want to answer that, Kate?
Yeah, we absolutely do. That's we're just working through, we've got our series scope and sequences, and then what we're going to do is do our links. We've got the Australian curriculum ones, and as I said, we've got some other states in Australia, but we are also working on a New Zealand one as well, because we know you know, PM writing is used in New Zealand. In fact, when I was doing the research for this new edition, I spoke to quite a few schools in New Zealand. And so if anyone's part of this webinar, thank you, because you really helped.
So yes, we already had that in motion, Karen. I think it was that asked that question. So thank you for your question, Karen. And I thought it was best that the publisher answered that one. So at the moment, though, because it's not up there yet, my suggestion to you is there's a tab that says General. I would use that one if you needed to use something at the moment in terms of scope and sequence, but keep your eye out, because as Kate mentioned, the portal is growing. It's growing all the time. We're adding things all the time. And so the New Zealand tab will be there. The other tab that we're adding also will be a tab for any PYP schools. So if your school is involved in the International Baccalaureate, we're aligning some of the conceptual understandings and topics to the PYP. So there'll be a PYP tab situated in that same planning tab as well. The other thing I just wanted to mention, as Kate was going through, is yes, the lesson plan portal is very interactive. You choose where you need to go, which pathway you need to take. But if you're anything like me, I like to print things off sometimes. So also, within the exemplar carousel that Kate mentioned and that More tab, there is a PDF of the whole lesson plan. So feel free that if you are like me and feel like you need to download something and actually print it, you can print it from the More tab. and which is under the exemplar there. So there's other places to access that, but that's the main one that I tend to use. So just to finish off, because it is for just about 4:30, 2 slides to go. Obviously, there was so much to tell you, and like I said, I hope we answered most of your questions. But if we didn't, these 2 handouts are on our website. When you receive this, this recording, you will also receive these 2 links to these 2 brochures. One is an actual brochure of some of the stuff we've already mentioned at the beginning of the session, the slides that I went through. And the teal brochure is actually a lesson plan for looking for whales, which is one of our developing texts, and so actually has a sequence lesson plan so that you can actually see that as well. On that teal brochure, there's also the QR code again to have you engaged with the 7-day trial if you would like to have a look at that. And I guess the last thing to just the last thing just to mention is here is the QR code again. If you want that trial, this is the URL. And Steph, did you want to join us here and just remind people how they get access to their $50 voucher for attending today?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you to everyone who attended today. You will receive an email in a week's time, as Carmel mentioned, with the recording and all of the links. And then you'll receive a second email from us with the $50 voucher code for attending the webinar live. Along with that email, you'll receive a link to the website, and we'll give you instructions on how to use the $50 voucher. It can be used on any of our primary products. It doesn't have to be PM writing.
Thank you very much, Steph. So just to finish off, thank you, Jasmine, thank you, Steph, thank you, Kate, for joining us today and giving us your insights into PM writing. And Kate, thank you so much for your work on this. I mean, it's amazing. The product is amazing. What it can do for us as teachers in classrooms is also amazing. We can't wait to use it and to show you how we're using it in our schools. So thank you for your involvement. As Kate mentioned, the portal is actually quite big. Please, please, please feel free to join us for the trial at any point. Thank you for giving us your time today. And we hope you find this session useful. Remember, wait a few days and receive this email from us, and all of the resources and links you saw from today's session, you'll be able to access from that. So again, hope we didn't make it too difficult for you. It's probably time to go off and have your dinner or have a nice glass of wine now. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. We'll stick around for a few minutes just in case there are any more questions, but feel free to leave us at any point from now. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Carmel.
Thank you.
Looks like people are going, so we might. Oh, here's
There's
a question.
One. Oh, thank you. Thank you,
Oh,
Martina.
thank you, Martina. No problem. Thanks for joining us.
And as there are no more questions, I'm going to end the webinar now. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending.
Oh, hang on. Hang on, Steph. Are you still there?
Oh, when would you recommend using the free trial?
Okay, so Dan, this is actually a really good question. So pick a time where you actually have some time within those 7 days. Like, don't pick it across a weekend. Don't necessarily pick it when, pick those 7 days that you're off somewhere. Pick when you can, where you actually have the time to do the exploration. So keep that in mind when you actually book your 7-day trial. I mean, if you're going to be home for the school holidays, for example, when they come up, that would be a good time. That would be a good time to do it. But if you're going away, don't bother. Wait till you get back and then use the 7 days when you've got access to technology at that time and that you're not busy. Okay.
I'll just add to that the 7-day trial, you can register at any time and receive the link, and it won't actually start until you first sign in. So feel free to register for it today if you'd like, and just keep that login saved away. And then from the first time you sign in, that's when the 7 days begin.
So you'll be able to pick and choose for yourself, Dan. All the best with that. Well done.
Awesome. No more
Okay,
questions.
I think that's it. I think that's
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks,
Perfect.
guys. Thanks, girls. See ya. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.